I was just saying hi, and it's a beautiful Sunday here in London. I'm not sure where you guys are, but here in London, we're having a really, really good day. Lovely weather outside. I got to apologize because I'm 1 minute late, and I have to blame Eddie Nesta, Curtis Walker, and Angie Lamar for me being 1 minute late. That's because, like an idiot, I decided to watch Eddie's No Joke program, which precedes this one. You know, and look, it was just a fantastic program. And I think it helped me to think about what we're going to talk about today. Now, the difference in today's show, normally what I do is I normally have a group of guests and we talk on a very specific topic. I just thought I'd do something different this week, and that's because we've been doing this show now for, I didn't even know it was so many shows. It's almost 16 or 17 shows that I've done. I tried to go back through Facebook to see when we started this. And the best I can come up with is that more or less started my time here in exile in my home on the 19th of March. And anyone who knows anything about the show, we started to do a show because I just felt that the whole focus was very doom and gloom. Not saying we wanted to ignore COVID, but it was very doom and gloom, and we thought we'd shed light on other things that were taking place. And, you know, that's what we've done. So today what I've done, I've opened the floor up to anyone. Yeah, obviously for security reasons, we can't just issue the Zoom details online because apparently you've got some creepy people out there who like to attack Zooms and post things which, quite strange. I've been on one where it's happened and it's not good. No problem for me, but sometimes, you know, it can affect children, some of the stuff that they post. So what we're doing today is anybody who's hearing my voice is on Facebook who would like to actually be a part of today's show, all you really need to do is to, in the chat, just let me know that you'd like to be a part. And what I will do is I will send to your messenger. So you got to be using Messenger. I will send to your messenger the details for logging into the show. And a few people have already got the details. One such person is already logged in. So that's cool. And I'll bring them in when we have the conversation. If they want to contribute, all they got to do is raise their hand and we'll have a quick chat about whatever they want to talk about. And so today is really about us just talking about whatever we want to talk about. Hi, Andrew. Nice of you to join us today. Andrew's one of those people who's actually joined me before. He's actually come straight into the live Zoom before. I think it was a topic about books. That was something he was very passionate about. And I want to continue that today. Why the change of format? Well, I just think that sometimes we have to give ourselves a chance to just evolve on whatever we're doing. And this week has been a very, very strange week. You know, I yesterday I got a message from someone and she used the word entanglement. And of course, I was totally oblivious to what this whole entanglement thing was all about. Meant absolutely zero to me. Yeah, it just meant nothing to me. And it does now. You know, now I know exactly what she was talking about, because unless you were dead, I'm going to put my new headphones on because I want to make sure that we have no interference. But when I woke up and I went online, the level of dialogue and interference about the whole entanglement thing blew my mind. And I've seen a lot of people commenting, a lot of people making comments about the whole entanglement thing and, you know, their spin on it. And all I can say is, you shouldn't really air your dirty laundry in public. Yeah, it's got jack all to do with me. Now I'm in a situation where I'm totally disappointed with two people who, you know, I had a decent level of respect for, but I should have seen it coming. Yeah, I feel like I've been hoodwinked, and I think it's kind of my fault. I should have seen it coming. You know, it's not today or recently we've been hearing these rumors about an open relationship. It's not today or just the other day we started to hear about how they were growing up their children and the sort of choices they were allowing their children to take. And look, It's not my place to judge. But now with hindsight, I can look back now and say, this is where it has led. Yeah. And it don't look good. Yeah. Let's just be honest. Let's be really honest. People, it does not look good. It look nasty. It look meke. And I'm not on anybody's side, because I can see people on social media right now taking sides, talking about, if it was the other way around, and, she's just, I'm like, forget all of that. It just look nasty. It don't look right. And I'm not talking about who's right or who's wrong. I'm just saying it looked nasty. And, people might be saying, like I know Andrew has just said in the chat, that they're a regular couple. Are they? They're not a regular couple. They're an exceptionally different couple. And we have such great hopes for our exceptional people. Let's face it. We love when we have breakthroughs, and we have the Will Smiths of this world. We have the Jada Pinkett's of this world, and the prospect of their children. And so for me, I'm not talking about who's right or who's wrong. I'm just saying that's for their business. It shouldn't have been aired out in public. And quite frankly, we have bigger fish to fry. Let's be honest and let's be straight. And one of the things that I want to reflect on today, and I'm hoping you guys will join in with me, is this. Whenever things happen, especially on a race-based level, we're always quick and we're always happy to say the US this, the US that, and, oh my God, it's so bad for those Americans and blah, blah, blah. And I kind of noticed that not just us, but the authorities here in the UK sort of let things just slip by. And something happened earlier in the week, I don't even know if it was the tail end of last week, which I found very directly affected, because I've been exactly in that young man's seat. Slightly different, but I'll tell you about the incident that happened to me a couple of years ago. So 3 years ago exactly, I got a new car, a black Mercedes. Yeah. For those who really, really know me, they'll know that the day after I changed my plates on my car, put my personal plates onto my car, and I was driving across London from Thornton Heath over to Docklands, and I came to a stoplight. Anybody who knows where the hypermarket is in Sydenham, the big Sainsbury's, I came to that stoplight, and I just became aware that someone was looking at me. When I looked to my left, I saw two police guys. Well, I didn't know they were police guys. They were in a plainclothes car. Just two guys looking very upset. I couldn't put anything more than that. Didn't think about it, because I drove up to the light while they were stopped at the light. So I didn't think about it anymore. I drove off from the light, and that little junction has 3 stoplights in a row. One where I was stopped, the second one right beside a big pub where the turning is to go to the Sainsbury's, and the third one is underneath a railway bridge, so you can go up the road heading towards Bromley Road. By the time I got to the second light, I realized that they were behind me. And by the time the third light, you know what's going to happen. Some blues came on and they pulled me over. So they pulled me over, and I immediately realized that it was the same 2 guys from the 3 lights before. I've talked to young men so often about what to do when they encounter the police that I just went into automatic mode. I stepped out of my car. When he asked me to, he said, "Sir, step out of the car." And he said these questions, which, for those of you who don't know how to answer it, here's how you answer it. He said to me, "Do you know why I've stopped you?" And the simple answer is no. Yeah. You never say you do, because that's you incriminating yourself. So he said to me, well, you left that light so quickly. And maybe I did, but I happen to know that leaving a light quickly is not an offense. He then asked me the question which normally kicks people off. He said, "Is this your car?" And I said to him, "Let me explain to you. I know that before you walked over here, you guys checked the registration on my car. So here's my identification. Here's my driver's license. Yeah, absolutely, it's my car. His next words were, why the attitude? I said, well, you stopped me for no reason. He then started to say, is the car insured? I laughed. I said, yep, the car is insured. Oh, we can't find any insurance details on your car. In fact, when we run your plates, remember, this is a private plate, we don't see no details on it. So I said to him, well, okay, I hear that. The reason why you can't find any details on it is because I changed my plates over, and it's a private plate. But I do have the other plates in the back of the car. Would you like to see them? His next sentence was, do you know I can seize your car? I said to him in the quietest voice I could muster, here are the keys. I'm going to call myself a cab. I need to be gone. When I said that, him and his friend, they just crumbled. Because I then said to him, look, I saw you guys at the light. I saw the way you were looking at me. I didn't know who you were at the time, but that's not the way I expect to be looked at just driving a normal car through London. You stopped me for one reason only, and you know what it is. That's the long story. The short story is I left on my way, no nothing, no charge, no nothing. Why did I tell you that story? I told you that story because when I watched the video of Bianca Williams and her partner getting stopped in a black Mercedes, I was on the same page as them. I knew exactly why they were stopped. And I don't care what anybody wants to say about anything else. They were stopped because that young man is a young black guy driving a nice car. It's as simple as that. And when we have people who are going to try and pretend to us that somehow it's any different and it's anything else at this time, then they're lying to us. The rest of the video, what happened next was that they began remonstrating with the police because they had a 3-month-old child in the back of their car. And I want people to understand this now. The police do not see us the way we think they should see us. They don't see us as a mother, a father. They don't see us in that light. So when you're talking about, oh, but I got my child in the car, that ain't a big thing for them. They ain't seeing that. That's not causing them any strife or any thoughts. So when Bianca Williams was remonstrating because of her child and what she thought her child was about to see, it was never going to work. They just don't see us like that. Events that happened subsequently in terms of Cressida Dick giving that lame-ass, and I'm going to say lame-ass apology, just madness. And I've said all of that because I want guys to start to understand that we have to start to protect our children. And we protect our children by teaching our children how to deal with these people. Our children are never going to be able to avoid them 100%. We have to learn how to deal with these people because they are going to continue to behave like this. You know, what I found weird about the whole incident is that it happened in this now climate where people are trying to convince me that after the death, no, that's wrong. After the murder of George Floyd, things were going to change. People were trying to convince me. And then, you know, even this week, I had conversation with 3 people who I respect greatly, who were telling me about their hopes of change because now we're having this dialogue. Guys, I'm 56. I've been here before. I've been 31 years in this country. And I've gone through all of the Mark Duggan riots, the Brixton riots, all of those things. I've seen all of those bits and pieces. And the only result as to all of them has been chatter, 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 chatter. And then we just reset and we go right back to where we go. I actually predicted that it would probably take no more than by December that everything would go back to normal. And by normal, I mean bad. That's what happens. It didn't even take 3 months for those police officers to be oblivious of the fact that just maybe the spotlight's going to be on them for this activity. They can't have been living in such a bubble that they weren't aware of what the impact would be of what they were doing. They just cannot have been in such a bubble that they didn't know that maybe their actions may be taken in the context in which they were delivered. And that's how quickly, not just we, but that's how quickly they forget. And this is the reality we have to deal with. That's how quickly they forget. And so I know a lot of the workplaces now are having, these dialogues about how to make things better, and a lot of people are saying, well, can I call you black? Is it right? Do I call you African? What do I call you? Listen, man, those things are basic. The real problem, and I've spoken about this before, the real problem has nothing to do with us. It's about them. It's about how they think. When I made my comment that, racism has nothing to do with me, I can't fix racism. Some people were mad at me. And some people thought, oh, Paul, you're giving up. I'm like, I'm not giving up. I'm doing what I need to do. I can't fix a racist mind. I can't. What I have to do is prepare myself to encounter, to take on, and to defeat that same racist philosophy. And that's where I am in my thinking. And the organizations that I deal with and I work with, that's where we are, and that's what our thinking is. Yeah, you could have 10 million unconscious bias courses. It ain't gonna make no difference. Why? Because we're talking about fundamental things like lived experience. Lived experience. And one of the words that has come out of this recent time quite a lot is about understanding unconscious bias. Nah, it's about white privilege. And we need to understand the difference. See, white privilege is not something that they recognize. And I'm going to be straight. I can't blame them for not recognizing white privilege because it's all they've ever known. So if you've never come from a position where you've had something taken away or added to, then why would you know the difference? They don't know the difference. And I'm not saying that to forgive them for their behavior. I'm just saying with that understanding, we as a people need to alter our behavior. This expectation that they are going to give up something that they don't even know they have. We're wasting a lot of time. We're wasting a lot of time. And in the meantime, while we're wasting time, our young people are getting depressed. They're feeling more mentally ill. They're feeling isolated. They're not getting the jobs. I was having a conversation about how this whole race thing impacts on societies. And I was having this conversation with one of my friends who we both grew up in Jamaica. And we were reflecting on how that experience of growing up without racism. Yeah, I didn't know what racism was till I was in my 20s. Who wants to laugh, laugh. But that experience makes such a difference. And I'll explain to you how it affects young people here in the UK differently. When I came to the UK and when my friend, and we were both sharing the same experience, when we came to the UK and it was time for us to apply for jobs, we kind of just applied for jobs. We wrote letters and we sent them in and we just applied for jobs. We had no fear that our applications would be discarded randomly because we never experienced that. We didn't have any friends who could say to us, look, man, your name, and my name's Paul, his name's Mark, so figure that, could stop you. We never thought that at all. So we never had that apprehension about applying for stuff. So we already had an opportunity to go ahead of other people. And if you don't think that's true, I'll tell you about a course I did at the Henley College where we were talking about how companies market themselves. And a conversation came up about why there were so few Black people in the organizations that I was working in. Yeah, and to this day, I continue to work in organizations where if I'm not the only Black man, I'm the only Black person at my level. And at this college, what they were telling us, and Henley is one of those big, big important colleges, I'm told, was that when they send out offers for jobs or they put job adverts out, and in those days, I know you guys, some of you are too young to remember these days, they used to put them in something called the newspaper. They used to put them into something called the newspaper. And the HR people were telling us that, look, Paul, we hear you that we need more Black people to apply, but no one applies for the jobs. It is now 20 odd, almost 30 years later that I could understand the truth in what that lady was saying. And the truth of the matter is, because of the biases that young Black people have faced, some of them, not all, thank God, have locked themselves out of opportunities. They don't look at certain organizations as places that will accept them. They don't look at organizations as somewhere that I can send my CV in and I'll be judged. And you know what? I don't blame them. Because the reality of the matter is further research shows us clearly that if your name don't sound Anglo-Saxon, your possibilities for going forward are limited. And this has been a hell of a rant for the last 23 minutes, but that's the mood I'm in today. I'm in the mood to have this rant because it's just me on the show and one person waiting in the wings to contribute. But the reality of the matter is we need to really start to protect our children more. And because I have a son, I'm going to say, especially our boy children. We have to think long and hard about how we're protecting them. Because at the end of the day, those who are out there wishing to do them harm have no reason to change the system. The system works for them. Understand, the legal system works for them. If Alison Morgan, one of my friends who's a lawyer and a barrister, was on this call, she would tell you that when young Black children go to court for the same crime as young white children, they get harsher sentences. That's just a matter of fact. It's just a matter of reality. It's not even a matter of anything that you need to make up or you need to think about twice. It just is. We need to understand that when it comes to stuff like how we are accosted by the police, how many times are you being told that we are stopped disproportionately by the police? It doesn't affect them. And if it doesn't affect them, it's really pie in the sky for us to be expecting them to be a part of the catalyst of change, to help change it. This is what people need to understand. When you want something to change, you have to find a way to change it. It's not down to them. Now, because we are only 3%, my way of looking at it is protect yourselves. Protect yourselves. Because if you don't, they're just going to keep doing what they've always been doing. And Bianca Williams, luckily for us, and I'm going to say for us, she has a platform. She's a UK athlete. And so that was able to go massively. But anybody else will tell you that these things happen every single week, every single day of the week, and nothing comes out of it. Like I said to you, I've been here for 31 years. This must be the first time I've heard in such a short space of time, less than a week, an apology come forward. And I don't know, you guys may know different. But that's what I'm talking about, less than a week. Why? Because Bianca has a platform, because Bianca can say something, because her voice can be heard. What about the little guy down the road? He ain't got a platform. He ain't part of, Team GB. How many times does he get stopped before he can get an apology? Probably never. So that's what we're talking about. Okay, look, I think I've ranted long enough, and I can see one of the people who signed in to have a chat, typing away. I suspect she's typing onto Facebook. Just wave to me if you want to have a word quickly, or you want to stay anonymous. I know some people want to stay anonymous. That's you, Debs.
Well, yeah, okay. I mean, I don't really know what to do, what to press, but
no, you can speak right now because you're live.
Right. So, yeah, what I just typed to you is in my organization right now. It's like all about, having the conversation. I think, they feel that my organization is predominantly white and predominantly white males. So it's about having the conversation, continuing to have the conversation post George Floyd and what rose from that. And so there's this need to be talking about it. So my question to you would be, if there's this call to have a conversation and to be having this conversation, what should we be talking about? Something you mentioned just now kind of jogged me a bit. White privilege, that might be a good start. But it's also about how to have the conversation. And I'm not saying that the conversation should be coming from the few Black people in the organization, but it's the conversations that should be happening within teams. And I think other organizations maybe have the same agenda right now. So what do you think of that?
What do you have in the conversation? Okay, so if you're a part of an organization and in effect, you're working there, you're going there every single day of the week, I'm going to suggest to you that you do have a vested interest in taking part in these conversations. But I want you to start from the position of do not have your expectations heightened too high, because this is not the first time we're having these conversations. And I know for some people, this feels like a watershed, and this feels very different. I have a sneaky feeling that it's not. Yeah, but that's the pessimist. Let's go for the glass is half full side. If you're going to be having these conversations, you've got to be very frank. Yeah, one of the things I found, certainly within the organizations where I am, when I see Black people talking to white people about race, a lot of us, not all, but a lot of us pull our punches, almost as if we don't want to offend, almost as if we don't want to upset them. And we pull our punches and we don't say, look, this is straight up wrong. For example, my colleague, last week you called me colored. That ain't gonna rock. Yeah? So you have to be very frank, because if you're not frank, what happens is they walk away thinking, well, we're not that bad. Yeah? Don't overlook what we call the microaggressions. Yeah? Because this is what the Brits are really brilliant at. So that's why we've had this conversation where people think everything's worse in the US. Is it? The major difference between what we saw with the Bianca Williams video and what would have happened in the US is that UK cops aren't armed. But let's be honest, who knows what that would have escalated to? Yeah. So now in the UK, we're now talking about the Metropolitan Police thinking about this new thing on handcuffing people. What civilized country you need to handcuff someone because you stop them? What civilized country you get away with saying you smell weed when you said the car was across the road? How do you get to that? So in the UK, what you're dealing with is microaggressions. So what you have to do when you're having these conversations is you have to be able to articulate how these microaggressions take place. Yeah, you have to be able to articulate how these things happen. And if you're a Black woman, there are race-related and sex-related microaggressions that take place as well. Yeah, so let's go for the simplistic ones, where you're always the one they ask to make the tea. Yeah.
Not me.
Damn right. But I'm just giving you the simplistic examples of the things that they presuppose. So one of the great conversations that I have, you know, that kills them whenever I start a new job, because I start jobs regularly, not because I'm sacked, by the way, is, you know, they try to be friendly and quite rightly so. They'll ask you about music. And I'm like, well, you know, I'm a country and western man. As if to say I couldn't be. And my point is, they have these stereotypes in their heads, you know, and they'll say things without really, or thinking they don't mean anything. Like, oh, nobody would mess with you, Paul. Oh, really? Why? Yeah. And so that interview with Dizzy Rascal, I think it was, when he was talking to Piers Morgan, that's a great example of Dizzy Rascal, who, you know, he's not the brain of Britain, but he was able to point something very clearly out, which for me was Piers Morgan was trying to pretend that this Black Lives Matter thing should have greater meaning to Dizzy Rascal than it should have to another bloke. And that's where the problem lies. They don't see it as their problem. As far as they're concerned, the Black Lives Matter issue is our problem. And those are the little micro things they do. So you've got to focus on the little things that they do. You've got to focus on how, you know, you having to overperform, how we have to walk on eggshells. Because guess what? That's the everyday experience. And even those among us who do excel, who do get to the higher heights of whatever organizations, whatever industries we work in, if you sit them down and you have that conversation, they will always have something more to say. Debs, go.
So on that, I mean, so much of what you're saying is resonating, so much so. I mean, especially as just prior to the George Floyd incident coming out, I was appointed to the race champion for my organization. So just by that, on that point, I was, you know, immediately called upon to become more vocal and more sort of front and center. What I found recently is anytime I'm contributing to any kind of group conversation that is like wide or with a wide audience, I tend to get back this feedback that says, a lot of people like say, oh, you're so articulate. Oh, you're so well spoken. You know, these are, I mean, I know they mean well, and this is the thing with most microaggressions, with some microaggressions, I should say. Often they don't actually know that what they're saying is a form of unconscious bias, is a form of prejudice. Myself and a couple of other Black colleagues who are outspoken right now, we get the same thing. Oh, females, oh, you're so well spoken. Oh, I didn't know you could speak so well. Oh, this, oh, that. And I think the point you made also about Black Lives Matter, you know, they feel that we should own it. Like one of the first things I heard was, well, I feel that this is really important, but I think you'd be better placed to talk about it. Well, no, why? This is a white male. And I know he was trying to move the conversation on and trying to kind of say, well, I'm invested in this, but he wanted to hand it to me to say, over to you, because you're a Black female. So now's your platform, now's your podium. So this is the type of thing that even while trying to have the conversation, you have to deal with these blocks that just, you know, and I often want to feel, I want to ask, you know, when you say call it out and say, well, this is not right, there's a conflict because you want to keep the conversation going. You want, you know, you don't want to shut them down, but you're getting a lot of negative, even from the conversation, even from the interaction. So I don't know whether other people are having the same experience in their places of work, but that's really been my experience, probably in the last month.
I think the choice there is very stark. Do you have the wishy-washy conversation, which you know is not going to result in anything, or do you have the frank conversation?
Well, I'm not the one having it. It's referenced to me, but the conversations are happening in groups with different teams, and that's what's being promoted. Talk amongst yourselves. Keep talking amongst yourselves. So I'm just kind of, it just, you know, whenever there's like a forward movement necessary, or a summary, or some kind of gesture from the conversation, then it comes back to me. So yeah.
Then I and I can't tell you what to do. Obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of the case, but I would exclude myself from it. Yeah, I'm not going to be your fall guy. I'm not going to be the guy who, after all the conversations are done outside of my sphere of influence, you then dump it on me as, well, you know, we did consult you, Paul. Nah, I'm not going to play that game. I can happily go to work every single day of the week, go back home, take my money, and I don't have to deal with you. Yeah. But if you want me to help you articulate some sort of change in an organization, and you're going to put that burden on me and say, Paul, I want you have to give me some power. With responsibility must come power. Yeah. So that's my stance. If they're going to come back to you at the last moment and say, oh, now you're the representative, nah. I have to be able to control what is going on, or I'm not going to be a part of it. Yeah. And that's all I could suggest in terms of that. Yes, that's no problem. Like I said, anybody out there who's on Facebook today who wants to join in, today's a good day to join in. While I was thinking about today's show and what I could or could not do, I was thinking about some of the sort of topics that we went through over the last 3 months. 3 months. It's been March, February, March. I'm going backwards. March, April, May, June. We're in July now. And I was thinking about some of the topics we're going on. I'm thinking about how things have changed and how they stayed the same. And when you start to reflect on things in that sort of a context, it gets really, really funny. So, you know, I make no bones about the fact that I am no fan of Boris Johnson. I'm just as little a fan of the whole Tory establishment. And I need to be honest with you guys. It's not just that I am politically different and separate from them. I just don't think they have any sense. And I got to be straight, because what I have seen, you know, as Shakespeare used terms, a comedy of errors. You know, when you use hindsight and you look at how we have been mismanaged through COVID, it is mind-boggling that this morning you could be looking on TV and the only thing they're not talking about is the level of errors, the level of mistakes, the level of absolute disaster that has been brought on this country. And the only thing I can say to rationalize it is that the US did worse. That seems to be the only thing I can say, that the US actually did worse. You know, I'm a numbers man. I like my numbers, but I didn't even check the numbers this time to see, you know, per million how we were doing versus the US. I didn't even check them. If anybody wants to check them, that's cool. But I was just thinking about all the mistakes, all the errors, all of them. You know, let's start early days. We started with the concept, and this is from the mouth. This is not we made this up, of herd immunity as the way forward. That quickly dissolved into let's go into lockdown. And we went into lockdown, what everybody now broadly says was too late. Let's understand this. The UK is an island. Yeah, okay, yeah, you got Northern Ireland hanging out there, but in essence, we are surrounded by water. Yeah. And for us to fail to lock down, while other countries that were landlocked were able to do that, where people can, you know, find ways in, that was mistake number one. Mistake number two, what do you think it was? Mistake number two, lack of planning. Yeah. The UK government had wound down all of its testing facilities for all diseases years before as part of cuts Don't let anyone fool you. It's documented. So all the facilities that would allow them to do comprehensive testing had been wound down. If memory serves, we were left with one major testing facility in the entire United Kingdom. One. So when Boris Johnson steps up and says to us, testing will be a central part of our defense against the pandemic. When he then goes on to say, we will have, what was it, 100,000 tests by the end of April. Never happened, by the way. Eventually they got there, but it never happened. When they then go on to say we will have a world-beating track and trace app, you know what? I just wonder how these are not the topics that they're talking about every single day. And I'll get to why. It's really odd because Jamaica is 2.4 or 2.8 million people. Our GDP is tiny. We're in debt up to our ears. We have a track and trace app. In fact, the app is so good, so intrusive, that there are people complaining about it because it does what it says on the label. The UK spent over 12 million and they still don't have an app. In fact, they've abandoned trying to get an app. Remember when you guys were all freaking out that the government are going to plant this app on your phone, and that hoax message was going around saying that they had already put it on your phone? Remember that? Turns out they haven't even got the app yet. And they're never going to get one because they've abandoned it. What I'd like to see is an investigation into who owns the company that was paid the 12 million to develop the app. Well, I have an idea who, but I ain't got no proof. So I'm just going to say we should be investigating that. 12 million. Meanwhile, we bought PPE from Turkey that turned up and turned out to be useless. Who's the purchasing guy? Who's the guy who did that? In the middle of a pandemic, we can't buy decent PPE? Really? Germans have an app. Their app is open source. In other words, you can walk over to them and say, hi guys, can I use your code? And they'll say, yeah, because it's open source. And you could put your UK flag on it and you could have it turned around, I don't know, 48 hours. All the software guys, you can tell me otherwise. We still don't have an app. And Boris Johnson then has the balls to openly, on TV, on national TV, say the care industry failed to follow the guidance and the appropriate measures. This is after he had us, well, you all, outside clapping for the NHS and outside clapping for the care people. He then turns around and blames them. No less in the same week when he says, now, I don't kneel because I don't do gestures. Ladies and gentlemen, look, we need to sort this out because at the end of the day, our dislike or my dislike for these people doesn't change the fact that they are the ones in the halls of power. They are the ones who will decide the nature of your school for your children. They are the ones who will decide how your hospitals will be run, how your transportation will be run, your taxes. They're the ones. And all I've seen and all I'm clear of is that they have absolutely dismantled the care system, the NHS. And I'm wondering if the next phase will be, oh, well, we didn't perform so well, so let's continue with some deep privatization. I'm just wondering. I'm just saying. I don't know. I just want to have a quick I have a quick comment here about Black Lives Matter. And it's been said quite a lot. And someone's put a comment in the chat about Black Lives Matter being run by lesbians. Racism in the Black community face is not their first or main agenda. And you know what? I don't know. That may be true. That may not be true. But here's the thing. If you remove Black Lives Matter, just remove them from history. Just take them out of history. What are we left with? And understand me, I'm not saying we should all be rallying under the flag of Black Lives Matter. What I'm asking you is, if you take them out, what are we left with? I've never seen Black Lives Matter asking me for a penny of support. I've never seen Black Lives Matter asking me to come out and support a rally or anything. What I have seen is a group of people with a master stroke of organization called dispersed leadership, taking on the authorities under the label of Black Lives Matter. Who they sleep with means nothing to me. And if people want to get themselves all in a tit about the fact that these people may or may not be lesbians, that they may be taking money from George Soros, and I'm like, guys, is that the biggest problem we as Black people face? A policeman murdered one of us on TV, murdered. And the biggest issue you have right now is who the women who started Black Lives Matter are sleeping with. Interesting. That's an argument we can have after. That's my stance. And I expect everybody to agree with it. But my stance is that we right now have a common enemy. And while we are fighting whether so-and-so is a lesbian, whether so-and-so took money from so-and-so, the people who are at the top, who are perpetrating the crimes against us, are laughing their heads off. We let them off the hook when we take these diversionary tactics. None of us have even questioned where the rumors around who they take their money from came from. We haven't even questioned it. We haven't even asked, I wonder if. The conspiracy theorist in my head always goes back to history. And I always look at history and I take my lessons from history. Historically, whenever there was a Black movement designed and capable of bucking the trend of white supremacy, they were destroyed. In the old days, because we weren't so developed at fighting them, what we did, we got together. We called ourselves the Black Panthers. We called ourselves this movement, that movement. We had meetings, we had marches, we had all of this. Our leaders were well identifiable. And what happened? What do you think happened to our leadership?
Murdered.
All murdered, all killed, all taken out, all discredited. So for me, when I look at Black Lives Matter and I think of their dispersed leadership, meaning that you can't kill the leaders because guess what? They're operating like cells. I start to think to myself that if I was a white supremacist and I needed to get rid of them, I needed to have an upgraded strategy, because guess what? Shooting them ain't gonna work because they're dispersed. And what better way to remove them? And I'm not saying this is the case. I'm just saying, think about it. What better way to remove them than to undermine them? All the people I hear who are talking about who funds them, if you ask them, where did you hear who fund them? Oh, it's on YouTube, Paul. Don't get me started on these YouTube researchers. We need to be careful. We need to choose our enemies better. Choose your enemies better. If someone's fighting with you, you fight with them. After you finish that fight, you may need to turn and fight them as well. There was a general in South America. Yeah, you guys probably know. I can't remember his name now, but those shirts that you see of this guy, the silhouette of a guy with a beret on. The backstory to him is that he led a revolution. And after the revolution, the people that he worked with towards revolution started acting wrong, and he had a revolution against them. So we need to rethink our strategies. Because if we remove Black Lives Matter from the entire scenario, if we remove them, then I want to ask you, do you think those 4 cops would now be on a charge, albeit it's not first degree murder? Do you think they'd be on a charge?
Negative.
But look, those of you who haven't taken a look, you need to take a look. You need to take a look at that video of that guy kneeling in George Floyd's neck. And what you will see on his face is an expectation that he will get away with it. At no point did he look worried that he was being filmed. At no point did he look concerned. That's how confident he was. And so now he's surprised. And I ask you again, as I move from this topic, do you think if it wasn't for Black Lives Matter, those 4 guys, all 4 of them, not just the guy who was the first degree murderer, but the others who stood by and aided and abetted in that murder, do you think they would be? Hey, it's up to you to answer what you think. You know, when I look back at the topics that we've dealt with, one of the topics that keeps coming up, and certainly over the last few days, it's been massive, has been about what solutions we have. Because you know what? We can, as my mom would say, we can beat up our gums, but unless we do something different, things are going to remain the same. And I've always felt that economics is our way out. Strengthening ourselves, protecting ourselves, educating our children, building strong businesses, building strong families, building legacies has always been our way out. And so when I look back at the list of topics, and I have them here that I covered over the last 16, 17 weeks, I keep seeing businesses turn up. So, you know, we had one about business during COVID. We had one about building strong Black businesses. And we had lots of topics about business. And I think since I'm the only one talking and I have the floor, I think I should stress again why building Black business is so important. You know, it's not just that we can buy from our own. I don't want people to think that it's just about buying from our own. And it's certainly, and you know, who wants to hate can hate. It's certainly not about boycotting other people. I said it before and I'll say it again. Yeah. Boycotting other people is only going to be great if you can sustain the boycott. Let me be crystal clear. If I'm a shop owner and any of you decide to boycott me for a day, and I get the feeling that that boycott is going to be 100% boycott for the day, I'm going to shut my shop, go down to the beach, chill out, and come back the next day, welcome you to my shop as you spend your money that you didn't spend yesterday. I did a video about this and I pointed out to you how long it took the Bristol boycotts, the boycott in the US with the buses, how long it took them to get change. We have become a wishy-washy generation. We talk a lot. We make nice, snappy videos. But we're not thinking strategy. Most shopkeepers, they don't do their money and their projections on a single day. They're doing it on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, a yearly basis. So if you think that by taking them out for one day, that's going to change their racism, for me, it's what we call gesture politics. It's a gesture. They're going to turn over the night after and say, they'll be back tomorrow. And guess what? They're right. So the solution is to build our own alternatives. This is not about the exclusion of anybody. This is about the inclusion of us. So I'm very heartened when I see that over the last month, there's been this galvanization where we're seeing all of these Black business directories. Because one of the first things that comes up when we talk about buying Black is, well, I can't find a Black this or I can't find a Black that. And I hear that because there are certainly some sectors of commerce where we are lacking, but there are others where we are not. And so I'm quite pleased to see all of these people who are now promoting these directories to show you where to buy Black and where to spend Black. Today, I was even more heartened in one of the WhatsApp groups that I'm in. I saw someone who did something which I consider to be even smarter than just a Black directory. They have a directory of directories. Yeah, that's smart thinking. Yeah, because there's nothing worse than having 10 directories and you don't know where to go. This guy created a directory of directories. And that's good because that means you can come to his page and you can find all the bits and pieces that you need in terms of directories. We have to be building our own businesses. If we're not building our own businesses, then we're always going to be having this conversation about the need to boycott. And guess what? I know it makes your heart feel nice and warm for 24 hours, but it doesn't change the outcome. And unless you are happy that your children and your children's children will still be doing this boycott thing 20, 30, 50, 100 years from now, we've got to change something. And that brings us to Black businesses, building Black businesses. And I'm going to make a few quick comments. Number one, understand that white businesses are ahead of us. It doesn't mean our businesses are not good. It just means that they've had a head start. If I'm talking from my personal experiences of walking into banks, not asking for a loan, please understand me, not even asking for a loan, but trying to get a bank account and being told no. Now, you need to understand what that no means. That no means I cannot have access to certain banking tools which would help to make my business 4 or 5 times more profitable than it is now. My business is not illegal. It's totally legal. I have no debt, perfect credit record, but I'm told no. Now that means that any money that I could earn to develop my business, making sure that it can now answer the needs of the people who use it, I'm limited. So my growth, my development of my business is slower. While I'm developing and growing at that slow pace, people are coming, they're looking, some are taking it, some are leaving. You know, you don't have the bells and whistles. I don't have the bells and whistles because I can't put 50 grand in development behind it. So when you come to me as a customer, and I'm now talking about any Black business, before you start talking about boycotting somebody else, talk about supporting your Black businesses. And if they haven't got things 100% right, please don't start conversations like, we're not good at business. We're bad at this. We're not good at this. Try to put yourself in a different level, because guess what? 99.9% of us work for other people, other races, and we do a brilliant job building their businesses, making their businesses strong. So much so that there are people who now use us as the brand face to sell their products. So think long and hard before you walk away from a Black business and give your custom to someone else, because that someone else is exactly the person that in 12 years' time you'll be saying, wow, look at how successful they are. But they are also the same business who, when your son, your daughter graduates from university and the first name happens to be Ahmed, they're going to toss his CV out the window. So we need to full this circle. If we help to build strong Black businesses to overcome some of the direct racist issues that affect the development of our Black businesses, we're actually invested in the futures of our children. If we get Black businesses to grow and go from small business to medium-sized businesses to large businesses, then our children have an opportunity, especially in the tech world, by the way, to be walking into companies looking for jobs and seeing people like themselves in the CEO chair offering them a post. But if we maintain this small attitude of, well, you know what, that business can't do this or it can't do that, so I'm going to leave them until they can, not so smart. Yeah. Even the largest businesses that you see now, the Microsoft, the Coca-Colas, the Shells, all of these companies started somewhere. And we cannot intellectually have this conversation about 400 years of slavery, colonialism, racism, white supremacy, and then turn around and try to judge our businesses by the same measure as a business that has been invested in for 400 years on the backs of our own. We just can't do that. And we need to shake that mentality. But on the other hand, as a Black business owner, you have to do your very, very best to nullify and to kill out some of these stereotypes. Because stereotypes, the word stereotype actually comes from a source of truth. Yeah. Whether it's overplayed or not is irrelevant. But the bottom line is the concept of the angry woman in the takeaway shop, it's real. Yeah. And so maybe, you know, we're playing on it a lot, but almost 9 times out of 10, whenever you hear someone criticizing Black businesses, that's what they go for. It's very rare you hear them saying, you know, XYZ or this, we tend to focus on cook shops, basically. Well, I'm here to tell you guys that, look, we are not the beginning and end all just in cook shops. Black businesses do a whole range of stuff. And guess what? We're damn good at it. And we do this without the help, without the assistance, without the funding, without the sort of push that other companies get when they're small. On my last show, I had a group of people, Black business people, who were talking about business strategies, and you could just feel the sort of knowledge, the sort of talent, and the quality of delivery from the people that were there. So don't tell me we're not good at business. We are. We're behind the curve, not by lack of talent, and certainly not by lack of trying. And unless we want to be having these same conversations in 50, 100 years, we need to buck our ideas up. As a business owner, you need to be receptive to criticism. As a business user, you have to be careful how you deliver that criticism. As a business owner, you have to be responsive to your clients. You have to check trends. Yeah. You have to look at how the market's moving. You have to invest in your marketing, invest in your advertising. And I know that if you're a small Black business, budgets are slim. But we have a long history of innovating when our backs are against the wall. And the Black businesses that are thriving, that are doing very, very well, they didn't start with any great, big, massive income. But what they did was they innovated, they persevered, they pushed on. And so if you're a Black business owner, you're out there right now and you're struggling to do your thing, all I'm going to say is keep leaning into it. Last thing I'd like to say on that is this. Look, make no mistake, we are just 3%. If you're one of those people who doesn't subscribe to this BAME thing, then you need to understand we are just 3%. With that understanding, we need to have certain actions that demonstrate our understanding. And one of the best actions that we can have is to create products, businesses, and services that supply everybody. I get it. Maybe the white folks don't want any shea butter. I get that. But we do have access to business and services that we can sell that the 97% want and will pay for. So when you're structuring your business, bear that in mind. Understand the numbers. And I said earlier, it's a numbers game. If you get 100% of the 3%, you're broke. If you get 50% of the 97%, you're flush. And with flush comes your ability to do more, to invest, to build. And what are we building? We're building a legacy for our children. We're supposed to be building a legacy to make sure that our children are not having the same conversations we're having. So here's what I'm saying to you. Stop selling your properties. Stop. Every time you sell your property and take out a new mortgage, you are devaluing what you have to give to your children. Unless you're one of those rich folks who can actually afford to buy a property outright. But if you're going from mortgage to mortgage to mortgage, all you're doing is making sure that when you top it, there'll still be a mortgage on the property. Start to think legacy. And I want you to do this too. Yeah, I ain't got nowhere to go. I ain't nowhere to be. Start to think about broadening where you think you can build that legacy. One of the reasons why white supremacy works so well is that we think we're trapped here. Mentally, we think that this is all there'll ever be. And it's a two-way game. So what's happened is our countries of origin, Jamaica, Nigeria, Ghana, the Gambia, African continent, the Caribbean, they have been demonized in our eyes. We've been made to think of them as, oh my God, they're so violent. They're so backward. Well, let me tell you something. While we are up here talking about our inability to live anywhere but in central London, there are white folks popping up all across Africa, all across the Caribbean. And don't even get me started on the Chinese, taking advantage of the great investment opportunities that those countries offer. And so when we're thinking that all I can do, all I can handle is go to work for my 40, 50 grand a year, and I'll build a legacy out of that. We need to be a little bit more brave, man. We need to start thinking about what our countries have to offer. You know, I started back in late last year, I started doing a series of talks with a gentleman called Tony Warner about moving back to the Caribbean and living good. And by the way, I'm not hating on you guys for this. I love this. There's been a spin-off, unauthorized, I might add, called How to Move Back to Africa and Live Good. And you know what, guys? I'm good with that. Because guess what? That's the sort of thinking we need. And when I stand up in front of a group of people talking about how to move back to the Caribbean and live good, there's some of the stereotypes that they come out with, some of the fear stuff that they come out with. A hell of a head job's been done on us. So here's what I'm saying to you. Build your legacy. Build your legacy, as the lady said last week, Yvonne Douglas, I think her name was, build it wide and deep. Relatively, the Caribbean, Africa, land is still cheap. Think about it. You know, I salute that lady, the head of the Bajan government, when she said she's trying to get people to be able to come down to Barbados and work for a year. My God, if Jamaica did such a thing, I would be out of here like a fly. We need to start to think deeper. If you think that where you are now is the only place you can thrive, is the only place you can build a legacy for your child, you are wrong. But you have to go about it the right way. Look, guys, I am really proud of you because you've allowed me to rant almost exclusively without challenge for an hour and 15 minutes. Yeah. I see a lot of comments in the thread. Microsoft started in a garage. Absolutely true. Yeah, we need to remember these guys started in a garage. Andrew says customer service should be front and center of your business model. Pat Reed, Pat's been a guest on my show, said strand strategy. You're talking about 7 strands of strategy rather. And this is gospel stuff. So economics, education, law, community, business, entrepreneurship and jobs, politics, family. Look, I'm not even making stuff up. You know, Pat, and he won't mind me saying this, is one of these guys who's done it. Yeah. We don't need to pay hundreds of pounds to go to seminars with some white dude whose dad left him 50 million. We have black guys who came to this country, made it, and are here throwing us this knowledge. It's up to us to use it. Yeah. Petula says we also have to know how to compete competitively with our businesses. A lot of black businesses have a high price marker on goods that we could get cheaper. It's about knowing how to compete in the marketplace. Absolutely. Yeah. But that's about research. You got to know your price point. Yeah. You can't be selling bread for £2 when the man next door is selling it for £1. Is the same bread. You can't. But that's about research. You know, have you guys never watched an episode of Dragon's Den? Doesn't matter how great the product is, they always come back to the money argument. Always comes back to the money argument. Last thing I want to say is this. It's been absolutely great, these 16, 17 weeks. I'm really pleased with how the show has come on. And just want to say next week, things will more or less return to what you guys consider to be normal, which is we're going to have a group of guests on it. I'm very, very pleased with one of the guests in particular. Not that I'm not pleased with the others, but with one of the guests in particular, I'm very, very pleased because I'm in a business group, and we were, like everybody else, lamenting my inability to go into a shop and see anything but Tropical Sun products. Just let's be clear, not boycotting, just making a choice. And I was told to look out for something called D's of the Caribbean. I did that. I found their products in a shop. I put a post on Facebook saying that I had found their products in the shop. Lo and behold, they logged on and said, thanks for the shout out. I'm going to have them on the show next week. I think what this is telling me, and I am assuming it's telling you too, is that even these chats that we have here are making a difference. And that's what I set out to do. I first of all set out just to lighten the mood. Then when I realized that people like Andrew was turning up every bloody week, I realized that we had an opportunity to make a difference. And so next week, we're going to have these of the Caribbean. But I just want to ask a quick question. So Antoinette asks, what about remortgaging? Is it wrong? It's about math. So it's not about whether it's right or wrong, Antoinette. And I just want to quickly address that. It's about math. The bottom line is, when you remortgage, you return to debt. Yeah? You return to debt. That's the essential part. You're still paying the money. The property, you're still paying for it. The objective, and I know that you have issues that sometimes ask you to need to do things differently, but the objective should be get to a point where you are debt free. And we have not been socialized in the UK to understand that even a mortgage is a debt. We seem to eliminate mortgages when we're talking about debt. We seem not to include it, but we should include it. Yeah, a mortgage is still debt. Remortgaging is still debt. Depending on your age, remortgaging could end you up with either a similar or higher payment over a shorter period of time. It's brutal. So, if you're going to remortgage, you've got to do the math. What am I doing? Am I extending how long I'm going to be paying this back? Or am I increasing my debt and therefore my vulnerability? No one saw COVID coming. It's here. A mortgage company may have given you a blight for 3 months, but they still want their money. And they're still going to get their money. So you just have to think deeper. Yeah, we just have to think deeper. Let me see if there's any other questions before I disappear off here. Someone here called D says, born here, but this country ain't my home. Mia Motley, absolutely. That's the Prime Minister of Barbados. Look, again, this is how important it is to listen to the people. That woman is kicking up a storm in terms of leadership. She ain't perfect. She hasn't got everything right, but in terms of leadership, she stands heads and shoulders above many. And you know what? While I'm on this platform, let me just say, the Caribbean on a whole has demonstrated a level of leadership in this COVID stuff that many thought they weren't capable of, but we knew the truth. Yep. What else? Oh, Pat Pat, listen, Pat. Pat says, I'll be basing myself in Jamaica to do business from there. Look, Pat, just remember that as long as we have Wi-Fi, we can work. Yeah. So build it wherever you are. Build it wherever you are. What else is here? I want black people to devise a 10-year exit plan and leave the UK to it. Look, leaving the UK is not for everybody. So I'm not purporting that everybody can do that. But if you're up here knocking about in a 1-bedroom bedsit somewhere, earning 30, 40 a year because your mother or your father couldn't live under one roof, so you're knocking around, just think. You have skills and experience that any of these Caribbean countries, any of these African countries would love. Why are you knocking around? Because you're afraid? Yeah? And look, I'm from Jamaica. I know what people say, oh, them all shoot you, them all this. Rubbish. But you have to do it right. Any such move. I know people who won't even come from North London to South London. Yeah, for a little dance. Right, Eddie? I won't even come across the pond for a dance because I'm afraid of South London. Afraid of Croydon. That's all good. What else? What else is here before I go? Oh, somebody said I should say to people, search for Ubuntu Travels, UBUNTU Travels. So that's a shout out for them. So we've got anything else to do? No? We done? Good. Guys, it's been a rain. It's been a laugh. I was thinking to myself that this would either be my shortest show or my longest. And it's turned out to be actually one of the longest. Maybe, as has always been suspected, I just like the sound of my voice. But I'm also hoping that what's happened today is you guys have got a feel for how I think, and certainly put you in a place where you're looking forward to the next shows to come. Because all the shows that will come from this will always be about building our community. Yeah, I have no interest in boycotting anybody. What I have an interest in is building our community, making our community strong. Because let me tell you something, with strength comes respect. Right now, they don't respect us because they know we got to come back to their shop tomorrow. I don't need to respect you if you have to come back tomorrow. Let's build our own businesses. Let's be strong together. Yeah. Like I said, next week, I've got D's of the Caribbean. I'm also bringing back Dr. Carlton Brown, who is from Marshall & Brown, some excellent products. And I'll have a few other guests with you. I'm also going to continue doing the one-on-one interviews like what I did last week with Angie Lamar, which is just brilliant. Angie, thank you so much for your time. I already have secured recorded with a guy, you might know him, a guy called Eddie Nesta. Yeah, so I'll be airing that soon. And I got a few more interesting people. I won't say any names, but I got a few more interesting people on topics that you'll find very, very important. All I'm going to say is 3 million people from Hong Kong, Windrush. So let's see where we're going with that. And that's it. But I thank you, especially the people who join every single week. The weather is great now. Lockdown is easing. I'm going to go out now for a little drive myself. And yeah, it's really nice to be able to do this and the feedback. Oh, every week I forget to say this. There's a group of people out there who always send me articles and information into my inbox. And I'm going to be straight. I don't always say thank you, but thank you. Because some of the stuff that you guys shared me is just like absolute gold. And I should say thank you. And a lot of people always contribute. For those who have my number, they send me stuff as well. And I'm very grateful for that. I'm not the greatest fan of Facebook, but I use it as a tool and it works. And I guess you guys who have helped me do that sort of stuff have really made it worth it. So this is Paul Lawrence for People Talk. Go to the channel, People Talk with Paul Lawrence, or Black Guys Speaking, any one of them. Subscribe to the channel. All the videos of all the shows that we've done so far are there. You can go back, you can look, you can see the videos, you can watch them, share it, watch it, and let's get everything moving. Guys, I will see you all next week, and have a great and safe week.